too.
So I came across something while researching something from my book on matters of religious freedom. It's this idea called the Doctrine of Religious Restraint, or DRR for short. The DRR states that a citizen of a liberal democracy may support the implementation of a coercive law X just in case he reasonably believes himself to have a plausible secular justification for X, which he is prepared to offer in political discussion. Now, before we go into the complexities of the DRR, I should first define what a liberal democracy is. In America, we practice a liberal democracy formulated under a constitutional republic. A liberal democracy is defined as a liberal political ideology and a form of government in which representative democracy operates under the principles of classical liberalism, also called Western democracy. It is characterized by fair, free, and competitive elections between multiple distinct political parties, a separations of powers into different branches of government, the rule of law in everyday life as a part of an open society, and the equal protection of human rights, civil liberties, and political freedoms for all people. I support the government having the power to enforce law through coercive measures. It is because of this I believe that coercive law should only be grounded in secular ideas. Under a theocracy, certain basic principles cannot change. If they are written in the religious doctrine, then no man can theoretically change those concepts, except through new interpretations or a different perception. Homosexuality is a prime example of how hard it is for religion to change with the times. Through a new perception, many in the Christian faith have adopted the view that one of the central tenets of Christianity is to love one another. Through this idea, they have accepted homosexual behavior. But this is only a small sect of Christianity. Most Christians just tolerate homosexuals in society because they know their judgment will come and that they present no clear and present danger to society. They believe deep down that God will cast judgment, and therefore, it's none of their concern. I have problems with this passive animosity, but it has allowed both groups to coexist with very little problems in our society. When we create coercive laws based upon non-secular beliefs, we do not treat all other citizens within the society with the same respect. Let's say the commandment, the one that not to take the Lord's name in vain, becomes law punishable by fine or jail. For Christians, this is biblical law. For all other citizens who don't believe in deities or practice another faith, how can it be justified to punish them for breaking this law? To them, the Lord is nothing but another fictional character. Another problem with basing coercive laws on religious beliefs is that they ground them in objective truths or morality. Many people do not believe in these concepts being objective, but subjective to the current time. If we had allowed objective moral truths from the Bible to persist, we'd still have slaves, women wouldn't have equal rights, and we'd still be sacrificing animals. These laws would derive their justification from religious dogma that no secular reasoning could persuade one otherwise. It's almost like the current problems with our Constitution. While amending the Constitution is incredibly difficult, in which it should be, many citizens hold it to the same prestige as the Bible. They feel that the Founding Fathers had gotten everything right and that it would withstand the test of time unchanged. With amendments, one can easily see the struggles of the LGBTQ community or women in general as proof that our Constitution is fallible. Making the same case to those of faith that the Word of God may be fallible is not the same as pointing towards the Constitution, though. People know who wrote the Constitution. They were men that physically existed. The Bible was also written by men, but these men were considered prophets. They hold a certain authority when it comes to translating the Word of God, which is the problem with basing laws on religious beliefs. From an atheist point of view, these prophets are no different than the people that kill others, stating that God had told them to do it. There is no way to verify that a God was talking to these individuals. There is no way to know that these men didn't interpret God's words wrong or didn't add their own idea. The King James Bible is proof that translations are faulty and include words from the translators. Certain texts were omitted because it didn't fit the canon and others were added. In my mind, there is no difference between the authority and legitimacy of the Bible than any other fairy tale. I like the idea of the DRR. It has its shortcomings that I will outline below, but for its general purpose, it requires people to have sound rationale behind their opinions. It requires people to seek a better understanding of their positions beyond an appeal to authority. We need our laws to be grounded in reality as best we can. If we hold the idea that everyone has one life to live, then there is no such thing as an afterlife, then we should be able to create the possibility that every individual has the best life possible. I say the possibility because we can't force people to do things they don't want. However, we are the creators of this reality, and we can create structures and environments that are conducive to this principle. Human beings are the ones that prevent this from becoming a reality. It is within our power to create this reality, but only if we can all come together with the common goal of making it happen. One of the biggest problems I have with the DRR is that it's based upon the premise that people base their opinions on fact. I've come to realize that many people only care to hold an opinion. They do not care if that opinion is right nor based on anything factual. In order for the DRR to work, we must first have citizens that believe one is entitled to their opinion only if they have sufficient evidence to hold it. If evidence is brought forth to disprove their opinion, then it is their civic duty to change their opinion. A liberal democracy cannot exist on pillars of opinions based upon disproven facts. It must be held up by shared belief grounded in reality. I know requiring people who practice religion to hold the above standard would present a whole new problem because one cannot prove the existence of God. However, even if we give them the benefit of the doubt, we must hold them accountable for all opinions outside of the initial belief of a deity. Another problem with the DRR is people who use science to justify their religious dogma. These individuals will misrepresent science and in ways that prove their religious ideology. Take Mary Baker Eddy, the founder of Christian Science. Christian Science is based upon the idea that sicknesses of the body are actually not there. They're just the weaknesses of the mental state of an individual. Sickness is an illusion. Mary Baker states that in her search for the scientific revelation, she only used her Bible for research. Her only evidence needed to come from her conclusion on how Jesus healed those around him. She believed that the mind governs the body wholly, and that one fully accepts the teachings of Christ, the mind could heal anything. When we detach ourselves from the one and only God, our mind beings project sickness to our bodies. Baker says, which was first, mind or medicine? If mind was first and self-existent, then mind, not matter, must question of precedence have been the first medicine. Mind, being from the nature and action of the mind, for truth is God's remedy for error of every sort. Now, I'm not going to say taking the time to train and heal your mind isn't fruitful, but the majority of Eddy's claims are based upon the idea that the separation of the mind from God is what really causes sickness. This has given rise to so many parents opting to pray for their sick children instead of seeking proper medical care. How can a child understand the complexities of the existence of God? So God now punishes children with sickness for having weak minds? Anti-vaxxers are another example of how science can be used nefariously. They use pseudoscience and misinformation to sound skeptical, when in reality, they are showing their true ignorance and how easy it is to persuade people under the guise of science. Most of their claims come from this rudimentary understanding of human anatomy and physiology. They dissect the end product into its various parts and then point out how these various parts are poison to the body. Most of their claims are founded on some conspiracy about the government. Their reasoning is void of the complexity surrounding the research and knowledge of the fields they critique. While anti-vaxxers are not all religious, there's a subsect of them that do not vaccinate based upon religious grounds. If God wills it, then why should humans interfere with this plan? The DRR does not give good reason as to why one should not keep slaves. In a society of people that believe a certain race or ethnic group of humans are not considered humans, then how does the DRR stop them from enslaving them? They may use secular reasoning similar to the argument of our current immigration debate. The right views undocumented people as criminals and non-citizens, putting them into this category that allows for citizens to dehumanize these individuals, and it makes it easier to enact legislation that treats them as inhumane. These citizens then have a clear conscience about denying human rights afforded under the Constitution to others based upon the idea of citizenship. Or we can point towards the treatment of Native Americans in the past by our country. Because they were viewed as savages, they were not granted the same rights as other human beings. This allowed the justification of killing Indians and the benefit of the doubt to always align with the white citizen. The DRR is also based upon the assumption that secular views are this median ground that all people will find reasonable. To many, this would be a correct assumption. However, many religious individuals think secularism is the work of the devil or evil itself. To be honest, if you ask how many Christians in America would vote for an atheist, I don't think more than half would do so. Even if they say they would, if you actually measured their votes, I feel that they would vote differently than they said they would. Just like when companies ask consumers what they want and the company provides that option, the consumer ends up staying with the original product. What people say they want and how they act tend to be different. When consumers asked Cheez-Its to take out many of the preservatives found in their product, they complied. However, the product didn't taste the same and consumers didn't buy it, so they pulled it from the shelves. I think the DRR offers a great starting point to the discussion how we create law in a liberal democracy. If the religious and non-religious could agree on its foundation, then we could have fruitful conversations that would end in better policies for all. We could build a better society that would be built upon evidence-based policies that can be measured for their effectiveness. We could tackle issues that threaten the greater concept of human beings in general. I hope you do a better dive or a deeper dive into the DRR. A lot of philosophers have critiqued it and changed it and made it a little bit better in some areas, but for its main purpose, it's a really great concept. If you guys liked it, thank you. Please like, share, comment. Let me know what you think of the DRR and if it's a good thing that atheists and non-religious could at least talk to each other about and agree on this base premise that we can start all policies on. Thanks, and have a good one.